concern the country, about the state of the nation. Thank you very much for joining us, and this is KTN News.
Thank you, Karaoke.
And first and foremost, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well as your viewers.
Thank you.
And the KTN fraternity. And indeed, the Standard Media Group, wherever they are.
Of course, it is day 7 of about 366 days. And in those 7 days, we have seen a lot that has happened in the country. We've seen a back and forth that has actually taken place between the executive and the judiciary. What's your take about it? Because it has really elicited mixed reactions across the country.
You said 7 days out of 365. Already
365.
We're moving. It was the famous Prime Minister of the UK. It was actually the Second World War Prime Minister, Churchill, who once said, "A week in politics is a very long time." And I think this is so, because we've seen a lot of hullabaloo, a lot of... but the year has begun well, so really a lot of Kenyans have started the year in a very, very difficult, under very difficult circumstances. To begin with, anytime soon, I think today, tomorrow, results of KCE, whatever, being released, and we hope they'll be authentic. And again, Kenyan parents are taking their children back to school. They lack the wherewithal. A lot of them, because of the high cost of living, cannot afford. We hear that, and I think we'll confirm, where the head teachers and people everywhere, in response to the high cost of living, are also preparing to hike school fees. So very difficult circumstances. And even before this happened, we had the executive coming out fighting the judiciary, which is completely uncalled for. Even the latest statement I see from William Ruto somewhere in Eldoret yesterday, urging collaboration on the one hand, and on the other hand, his deputy is out there pouring vitriol against the judiciary. Now, some of us take this as a very serious matter. Aggression against any arm of government is actually aggression against the rule of law, and by extension, a threat to democracy. So what you're seeing now is, like it has never happened before, a real challenge to democracy. And I wonder, Pana Karaoke, whether some of these leaders have been listening to these debates, whether there's actually democracy is under threat worldwide. So that we can, if that is the case, then we need to sit as a country and ask ourselves some very pertinent questions. Whether it is really a new Kenya, a Kenya which has gone back 20, 50 years. And we can, of course, we can't allow that to happen.
And of course, the president says that the judiciary and some of the judges are corrupt, and there is some kind of impunity in the judiciary.
But if he says so, let him be explicit. Let us see some action. Nothing prevents the DCI from moving on some judges, and without, of course, dragging a judge before a magistrate. I once appeared in court when the Deputy Chief Justice was dragged to a magistrate's court. And I actually went and appeared on record for that. There must be decorum. As long as there's decorum, call them out if there are judges who are corrupt. And by the way, I had a discussion once with the former President Uhuru Kenyatta, and the reason he gave for not having appointed the 6 judges that William Ruto saw to appoint on day 1, which he did when he took over the reins of leadership. Some of them, the reason Uhuru Kenyatta did not appoint some of them were very clear. They had integrity issues, and of course he wouldn't disclose. I think that if there was a proper handover, he would have known. Could it be, he's talked about some of those judges? We don't know. He has to be explicit. But even as he tries to be so, he must understand the judicial arm of government is independent, should be independent under Constitution 2010, and that is not a matter that can be negotiated. Therefore, to call for collaboration is even making it worse. Let him do his work and allow the judiciary to exercise the independent mandate as a very critical pillar of governance and the government of the Republic of Kenya.
And you've talked about collaboration, the president talking about collaborating with the executive, and I've previously had Azimio leadership criticize President William Ruto that he has actually held hostage the legislative arm of the government, and now talking about collaborative with judiciary. How would you term President William Ruto's leadership skills, or rather style, since he took over power, it being like about 18 months now?
Kariuki, that's a very suspect pronouncement, talking of collaboration, at a time when we know that the executive captured legislature. I think it is a fact that maybe perhaps the judiciary are digging in, and I must tell you, the Law Society of Kenya is doing this country proud. That is in accordance with the mandate given to under the Law Society of Kenya Act, Law Society of Kenya Act. And of course, we have also the senior counsel bar, whose chair is Dr. Fred Ojambo. So President Theory and others, members of the Law Society, have actually tried to hold this government to account from that point of view, advising them on matters to do with law and the practice of law. The moment you compromise that and you say that you can just take over the judiciary as they have taken over the legislature, will then mean we have no country. And so this is as basic as that. And therefore there must be opportunity given to any Kenyan who wants to approach the course of justice to do so without let or hindrance, and to seek legal counsel. And then the issues of corruption, again, they can be dealt with. Remember the famous Kiraitu led that time, because the Minister for Constitutional Affairs and Justice, when he had the radical surgery, and the chair of that was Justice Ringera. That was a systematic approach to deal with some of those corrupt judges. But you cannot have a blanket situation and say they are corrupt, and you don't even have any evidence. If it is that they are afraid that matters that are being litigated before a course of justice include the critical matter of the high cost of living, then one can take it that they're trying to threaten the judges so they can get away with these punitive taxes. Now, that cannot be allowed.
Of course, we'll talk about the taxes, and you as a senior counsel, you've of course been in the courts. Are there corrupt judges in the courts?
No, you cannot, you see...
And is there impunity in the courts?
You see, now, it's very easy to say that. There may be instances, as I said, of individuals who fall short of the bar. And there's no reason why they cannot be held to account. That's why I gave you the example of the radical surgery that time. But what we are against is a blanket condemnation of the independence of the judiciary. A judiciary, and you talk about very senior and very well-learned people in this country, who refuse to be compromised. But if there are others, and because, you know, William Ruto knows that he can rely on National Security Intelligence, he can even rely on Directorate of Criminal Intelligence, and he will know some of these judges. If there are some who are blatantly involved in corruption, all right, then they can take actions in accordance with the law. That's what we are saying. So, indeed, there must be some people, as indeed there are others in any walk of life. And did we not see recently Chitembe getting removed through the process, due process of Judicial Service Commission? It goes to show that Chitembe himself was a corrupt judge. And I'm sure he cannot even take legal action against me because I can plead justification. There may be others like that who then may have to be taken through the process. But to wake up one morning because you want to scare judges, right, who are hearing certain sensitive things like this infamous housing tax, which is actually a slush fund of some kind, and you want to threaten them so you can get away with a project that may be dear to you, but punitive to the Kenyans. And you have President William Ruto himself agreeing that what he's trying to do is very painful to the Kenyan people. Yeah.
Now, in his New Year message, and severally we've heard President William Ruto say that the courts are delaying him, and in fact has also brought in the Azimio coalition, saying they are actually part of the people who are delaying his development agenda. Is Azimio?
I thought he said that he would want to have a strong opposition. All right. So if he's getting, and we are differing on issues, trying to give Kenyans an alternative way of running this country. All right. And we haven't even started yet. He hasn't seen nothing yet. Okay. So if on the one hand he says he wants a strong opposition, I thought he said that they should be given vuvuzelas to be doing vuvuzela business. No. We will be engaged in serious, like our position to the high cost of living. It's a very critical issue. And by the way, one of the things that has happened within this 1 week is a very shameful act that we witnessed yesterday of policemen, I'm told armed to the teeth, doing an incredible thing. As Kenyans witnessed people trying to enjoy Jacom's birthday, 79th birthday, and the police have the audacity to tear gas a cake. Where in the world does that happen? Tear gassing a cake. Some of these are so harmful that Kenyans are now saying, wait a minute, what kind of leaders are these? Yeah. So I want to tell you, Bwana Kariuki, that this country is at a crossroads.
The president has severally said that the Kenyan debt has really, they found the debt had really skyrocketed. And that's the reason he has come up with different ways of ensuring that they have collected money, at least to pay the loans. And some of these instances being having the new taxes that he has brought in. And you have talked about the taxes putting Kenyans in a very dire situation.
Indeed, dire, absolutely. Kenyans will remember that under Kibaki and ourselves, when we were the Grand Coalition government, that's the time Kenyans got money in their pockets. Now, and everybody tries to blame the international economic order, the COVID-19 pandemic, and that kind of thing, the war in Ukraine, which is very far away, yeah, and the war in the Middle East. That cannot be a reason to cause pain and make the situation so dire that Kenyans, a lot of them cannot afford food on the table, at least a meal per day. Yesterday I went to a church in Ruiru, and there's a Pastor Ben there, who apparently has the same adopted my clarion call of Mapema Ndio Best. I don't know who borrowed from who, but I went in that congregation yesterday, and they were shouting Mapema Ndio Best. This looks like a wiper congregation, only to realize this pastor is a presenter, and he wakes up very early in the morning at 3 o'clock. But that's a separate thing. He has a very interesting program where he gives people food. The same congregation, those with ability, bring in stuff, clothes and food stuff. So he has what he's calling the Lord's store, right? And so at least he's able to put some smile on the face of Kenyans around the Ruiru area and in fact in Nairobi, because it's a large congregation. Now, instead of this administration, this regime trying to do a similar thing, they are causing pain deliberately, because they deliberately accept that this is a painful thing. What we did with Kibaki that time was to bring in economic stimulus. Remember, President Uhuru of that time was the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Finance when we actually had to do that. In a time when the country is going through a depression, serious economic depression. You don't make the situation worse by overtaxing them. And we tried through National Dialogue Committee, Bwana Kariuki, we tried to tell them about these things. Bwana Ndungu himself, the CS for Treasury, who was that time Governor Central Bank, and I thought he would understand some of these things because we worked with him fairly closely that time. Instead of advising these people correctly, that you cannot literally slay the goose that lays the golden eggs. Now the middle class in this country, and this country has over time, painstakingly, ahead of African states, created a middle class. And that middle class is the one that has been able to create a lot of jobs. It is the middle class now. Those people will get together and contribute a little money, go to Kwanjo, and 10 or so of them, okay, in Chiamaiko area, put a container, all right? Buy a container and bring it here. To get that container now, you're overtaxed. They can't even try. And I thought they were saying they're trying to. So when you kill those people, business people, then even the hustlers get hurt. And even the hustlers themselves. It was the hustlers who were trying to get at least cut a cake yesterday. You tear gas them. So the notion about tear gas, about hustler nation, has become a very strange phenomenon. Abandoned, even at inception.
And how would you maybe handle the issue to do with debt and also ensure that there is liquidity in the country if you are the president, maybe?
You see now, first of all, we are not the president. And even then, we tried through the National Dialogue Committee, tried to the best we could to actually advise them. And please recognize we have some experience that we can share. And for example, we try to tell them, this thing about fuel tax, we agree with you, you can't run an economy on subsidy. But for goodness sake, don't move from 8% to 16% of the fuel tax. And then they try to explain some very strange thing about G2G, all right? Which has now made President of Uganda take Kenya to court. And I want to comment about our international relations or regional relations at some stage, perhaps, because it has never been as bad as this. So the way to handle debt is not to overtax people already crying, but it's to be realistic, okay? And even negotiate if some of them are commercial debts, right? Behind all these Chinese companies you see, for example, there's nothing wrong with approaching President Xi Jinping, and he will, because that's a fairly controlled economy, and then you'll be able to see, they'll be able to renegotiate and perhaps, and again, the Paris Club, I'm sure you've heard of that, yeah? You can always reschedule, debt rescheduling, so that you are able to get out of an economic hole is what we would do, all right? But not to overtax and kill your citizens. And besides, who has evidence that all this money they are trying to correct, and we have been hearing of business people who may not be sympathetic to the regime being given heavy taxation bills, and getting threatened. So the business community right now are afraid, literally afraid. Now that is not the country we want to really push ahead.
Right.
Yeah, but people are now afraid again. You cannot run an economy where serious business people are afraid even of talking. Yeah? And I'm sure you know, during the National Dialogue Committee, this matter was brought before us, and we, at some stage, 6,000 companies from the Nairobi Stock Exchange were reported as migrating out of this country. And the result of all that is the weakening of the Kenya shilling. More pain. Have we not seen today now, even the repayment of the standard railway gauge matter, which is so very controversial, right, has now moved to 14 billion shillings because of the weak shilling. Shilling is almost trading at about 160 shillings to a dollar right now. So, and these people seem to be helpless.
Right. You have said, actually, you've severally mentioned about the national dialogue, that the issues to do with the cost of living, the issues to do with the taxes, really came up in the national dialogue. But again, it did not reflect in the report. What happened? Because you are a co-chair of the same committee. What really happened?
About the high cost of living? We agreed to disagree. We basically said there are two ways of handling it. If the committee had reached consensus on an issue, then we recorded the committee agreement. Where we did not reach agreement, like in the case of the cost of living, we actually, under the recommendation chapter, paragraph, said we have disagreed. All right? So it's as simple as that. But on a majority of other issues, we agreed. Like the critical matter of forming the new Electoral and Boundaries Commission. We agreed on that. We even agreed on the need to audit the 2022 August elections, that both sides will each pick a good audit firm, and then they will be able to work out on the modalities on how to proceed. And we also agreed on integrity to political parties, amendment to Article 103 of the Constitution, so that you can now tame this takeover capture of legislature by whoever is in authority. Because at the time elections were announced, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya were the majority in the National Assembly. But aggression against the political parties resulted in a situation where Kenya Kwanza now have an artificial majority. Thank God they do not have 2/3. Yeah.
Now,
so at least we're able to agree on that.
Right.
Yeah. We even agreed on these constitutional offices. We agreed on the need to anchor even CDF in the Constitution and the other funds. And now the situation is so dire that I'm told members of Parliament have been able to issue forms bursary forms to Kenyan deserving candidates or students, but there's no money to back that up.
Right. You've talked of several issues that you agreed upon, but I go back to the issue of the cost of living, because there are clear indications that Azimio might be going back to the streets again because of the same issue. What's your position?
I think
because,
since we started,
the fact that the reason to why part of what necessitated the formation of the National Dialogue Committee was the demonstrations. Now again, you'll be going back to the streets because of the same issue.
Well
if
done.
At all, you'll go back to the streets.
I think we have been very clear since we started the conversation, Wana Kariuki. You will agree with me that we have once or twice touched on the issue of the cost of living. Even when you bring the issue of the debt and everything revolves around the high cost of living. Now, whether or not Azimio la Umoja One Kenya would want to go back to the streets is a matter that will require fuller consultation. And by the way, nothing prevents ordinary Kenyans, even without the leadership of Azimio, right, from actually going to the streets on the same. And this is how far we've come in terms of social rights, economic rights. The Kenyans have the right under Article 37 to picket. They have the right to carry out demonstrations, provided, the law is very clear, they do so without bearing arms. And we've realized in those demonstrations that led to the establishment of the Dialogue Committee, and because we had the predecessor to the National Dialogue, the Bipartisan Committee of Parliament, right? What necessitated the formation of the National Dialogue Committee was, as you said, the fact that Kenyans lost their lives. Over 72 Kenyans were shot with live police bullets. Itself an unacceptable thing. They could not even allow us to hold a requiem mass for those young people who were killed, because again intimidated even the churches. So that matter is still a live issue as far as I'm concerned, and as far as the coalition is concerned.
Right.
That's a completely live issue. We cannot abandon Kenyans. And yet, if these people can tear gas a cake, carrying, again, live bullets, they probably seem to be so scared of this matter of demonstrations, they'll come and shoot dead more people. So we must also act decisively, maybe change tact, so that these guys will, elephant ears, perchance will listen.
Right, and it's 2024, Azimio coalition, you are co-principal in the Azimio coalition. What are the plans for this year? We saw last year you were really involved in the dialogue. Now it's another year, Azimio coalition. First and foremost, is it still intact? Because towards the end of the year, there was a back and forth in the Azimio coalition.
I don't know what you mean by back and forth. Back and forth
Because of the national dialogue report.
Yeah, we we had two of our colleagues, and I think Eugene in particular was so incensed about this matter of cost of living that he went talking. Okay, I haven't heard much from Eugene. He must have been enjoying the end of the year festivities.
But also
so we'll catch up.
The NAC Kenya leader Martha Karua had also said the report did not really reflect.
Yeah.
In fact, she had actually talked of the deal breaker being one issue, the cost of living, and that till then we have not had the
no, we have the freedom of expression which we hold dear, that we may not agree even as a coalition on some of the issues, but surely I can tell you over 70% of those recommendations were in favor of our own proposals. And surely we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathtub. So we need to save that. And I'm quite sure Mother herself understands that we need to ensure a situation where we don't allow Kenya Kwanza to form the next IEBC alone, because that would be the alternative. In fact, as we speak, I'm hoping that before the end of January, both speakers of parliament will call for a special session of both houses to be able to adopt those recommendations. Yeah, so nothing is lost, or is not lost. Right. But the fact that Mother and Eugene were able to express their opinion is really a matter that you cannot take against them.
So as I was asking, Azimio Coalition 2024, we have already seen some of the parties that form coalition have started strategizing, re-strategizing for 2027. We've seen ODM doing recruitments. We've seen also NAC Kenya having meetings. In fact, they have announced that they will be in the ballot in 2027. Wiper Party and Kalonzo Musyoka. Where are we?
I saw the, as you speak, our team leader is Raila Odinga, because he is a party leader, and Mother is a deputy party leader, okay, of Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition party. And former President Uhuru Kenyatta is still actually the coalition chair. Well, before the end of last year, I saw that ODM went out recruiting and strengthening their party. We believe as a coalition that a strong ODM, a strong Wiper, a strong Jubilee, a strong NAC Kenya, and the other affiliate parties, a strong KANU, will mean that we have a strong coalition. So this year, Wiper on his part is going to be very aggressive, very, very aggressive. In fact, I've called for a National Executive Council meeting on the 16th of this month. It's on Tuesday next week. And we're going to lay out our strategies. We're going to go out everywhere. At the end of the day, this Tanga thing was not very bad. It gave them leadership. So we will do Tanga.
You are going to start Tanga.
Oh, we will Tanga, my friend. We have said hashtag Mapema, do your best. And that is a position. We'll be consulting as a national council of the party. We will rebrand Wiper. A lot of people are actually gearing to join the party, even as candidates. And I tell you, this is going to be a monumental national outfit, political movement. And I welcome a lot of people who know that this is perhaps, and I'm not chest thumping, a very solid political party to join and even prepare themselves to take the tickets and run in 2027.
Right. Prepare
or wherever
take the ticket to run for 2027.
Yeah.
Is Kalonzo Musyoka vying for the 2027?
That's why I'm calling for this consultative meeting, because I cannot make announcements as party leader without consulting. We've been a very consultative movement. So I'm sure party members and members of National Council, Executive Council, have also been listening, as indeed I've been listening to a lot of Kenyans who seem to be very clear-minded about the route we should take, about yours truly as a party leader of Wiper, the route we should take. Yeah.
What's the route? Is Kalonzo Musyoka vying for 2027?
That seems to be the clarion call. I'm saying actually clarion call. But as I said, I don't want to jump the gun. I want it to be an announcement by the party.
Right.
If the announcement is by the party, it gives me a sense of legitimacy. And we are calling this as early as the second week of January, on the 16th. And we take a position, and once we take the position, we move.
You have said that Kenyans is a clarion call from most of the Kenyans.
Every part
Kenyans
of the country
who are watching right now,
yes.
Will you look at them and tell them that Kalonzo Musyoka will be in the ballot in 2027, so that at least they are prepared?
I think we have made it very clear. As I said,
we've actually even had President William Ruto at one point saying that
he announced my candidature. I thank him for it.
Meaning that most likely he might be prepared.
No. You were not saying most likely. He said now, because he was pleading with Baba in Homa Bay to give way to him, that he supported him, I think in 2007, to become president. He supported him, you remember, when things actually went haywire. He supported him, so he thought it was time for Raila to support him. And if that happens, then he will only have me to face up to. I believe that will actually most likely be the case.
So if Raila Odinga supports Ruto, President Ruto, then he will be facing you. What if Raila Odinga decides to vie? Are you going to vie? Because actually today we've seen the Vice Chair of Jubilee Party, David Murathe, talk of Raila Odinga being the candidate for Azimio even in 2027.
You know, first of all, David Murathe is a friend of mine, and he's within his rights to say whatever. And you know, David is a person who comes sometimes with no gloves, hard tackling. But let me say that it is everybody's right, including my brother Raila, if he so chooses, to run. Yeah? And if that happens, that would be very exciting stuff. Very exciting. But again, I think we all need to sit back and take a reality check on where we are as a country. Do we want to continue doing the same things, the same way, and expect the results will be different? Or do we, like I did in 2022, take a back step and support Raila and Mother the way I did, wholeheartedly? Oh, absolutely. So, and I don't believe in anything like payback or anything. In these things, you just have to allow nature, sometimes the natural consequences to happen. And I think that is the direction we are taking. As I said, everybody is free to run, yeah? But as we run, it will become clear. It will be very, very clear that we are going to end up with a two-horse race.
And that will be President William Ruto.
Because he announced it himself. Everybody in this country knows who William Ruto's challenger is. He has made it very clear himself. And now I'm just waiting for this endorsement by the party, and we bring it to fruition.
And the coalition?
I don't think the coalition will have a problem.
Because the reason why
the coalition, by the way, is a very interesting coalition.
The reason why I asked that is because even the NAK Kenya party in their meeting, their NEC meeting, said that they are going to have a presidential candidate or other aspirant in 2027. So that's the reason I'm asking. Yes, the party, Wiper Party, will say, Kalonzo Musyoka is our candidate, and we have seen it do that severally. We saw it even.
But
in
Kenyans now
2022.
know. Kenyans now know. Okay, I mean, everybody, as I said, is free to run. But this time, I mean, it's as serious as that. As serious as it can ever be. Yeah. So, if sister parties announce that they will have presidential candidates, that's fine. Recently, the DRC had 36 presidential candidates. But everybody knew the challenge was between President Tshisekedi and his challenger, former governor of Katanga, Moise Katumbi. Everybody knew that. So these things shape themselves up. And as it had always not been between when it was Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila, some of us tried to, and we've really fought. We know this game. We know the rules.
So you are saying Kenyans should trust you this time round that Kalonzo Musyoka will be in the ballot, because it was the same case in 2013, 2017, and 2022.
Yeah.
So 2027, what should really make Kenyans really trust you to be in the ballot?
Because it's the Kenyans themselves who trust themselves to thrash me there. I think they want to thrust me there. I've heard some of them say, we will thrust him there. So I'm just a face of a struggle, okay? And the struggle is so serious that we can't afford to get it wrong. I'll repeat, this struggle is so serious that we can't afford to take it wrong, to get it wrong. So I am just a face, a willing face of Kenyans who say you must go there. Yesterday I was told by Pastor Ben with a huge congregation in Kiambu. I said, get going. Yeah? So, even those who want to say they want to run, let them also get going. And then we'll be able to know.
Of course, we'll be following keenly.
Yeah, follow. Please do follow. Let them even organize demonstrations.
Now, also, we've seen the Mount Kenya, a section of Mount Kenya leaders, especially in Azimio.
Yeah.
We've seen them also have a meeting and call a group that they have called, they've called it Kamwene, led by Martha Karua, Jeremiah Kioni of the Jubilee Party, and others. Is it an individual thing? Is it?
You know, I don't want to pass judgment on that issue.
Right.
But have you heard of things like dead on arrival? Because this thing means individualism. Kamwene in Kikuyu is exactly the same as it is in Kikamba. And in Kikamba, if I was to talk to you, Bwana Kariuki, and tell you Kamwene keta wakaketika. Kamwene in Kikuyu is something like that.
Yes.
Oh, it's a terrible political philosophy. I'd advise my friends to leave it. And we stick together.
Right.
And all of it. It could be a caucus. I think they've called it a caucus. Even this a caucus, fine. But so that it does not militate against the main objectives of our grand coalition.
Right. I know we've really talked about different issues, and maybe finally is to ask you, what would you now tell Kenyans this 2024? What should they expect maybe from Kalonzo Musyoka, and what should they look forward to in terms of the opposition's activities maybe?
I'll just tell fellow Kenyans to remain focused, to keep hope alive. Remember, I used to say that when I ran for president in 2007, to keep hope alive. To work as hard as we can. We thank God He's given us rain. At least there'll be food on the table from that end. But that does not assist the matter of a high cost of living. And it can only be a temporary reprieve. Let us keep working at it. Let us be very vigilant in guarding the gains we have made under Constitution 2010. Because if we lose those gains and we go back to dictatorship, then we'll have lost it. So we must fight. We must fight, but be very strategic in the way we fight. Hold each other in high respect. Sometimes call out each other. And we'll be calling out this regime And when we do call them out, they must know that it's nothing personal. It is about national interest, so that our children and our children's children will have a country they can be proud of.
All right. Of course, I know Kenyans have taken note of that, and definitely will be following keenly to see how opposition and also the leaders in the opposition will be carrying on these issues this 2024. Of course, that has